Welcome to the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast, where each short episode we talk about the strategies, experiences, and the tools to help you launch, grow, and scale your land business. Learn how to find freedom within your own business, find out ways to build consistency in your processes, and hear how other everyday land investors are winning so you can get to the next step closer to building your dream life through your land business. And I'm your host of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast by Pebble, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast. I just completed an interview with Rooster Vance. You might have heard of him before, you might have not, but this guy is full of stories. He has a huge social media presence, and I actually wanted to take this in one direction, but we ended up talking a lot about the importance of how he got into the middle of a lot of deals. So I think you're going to find a ton of value. This guy talks stories and is just dropping gems and experience left and right of the things he looks for. So pay attention. You're probably going to have to re-listen to this a couple times. And he's got a lot of, he shares a bunch of giveaways on here. Like, I'm not talking like, oh, free giveaways. If you're looking at my camera right now, he shares with us some pretty awesome scripts. Like I was pretty giddy reading this. You know, he talks about how he handles like objections in here and whatnot. So I talk about that in the episode with him as well. So there's a ton. I hope you enjoy this episode here with Rooster Vance. It's typically a little, I mean, my episodes hover around that 35-minute mark, but this went a little bit over, and I kind of wish I continued to go on, but it was getting a little bit lengthy. So anyways, enjoy this episode here with Rooster Vance. All right, how's it going, everybody? I've got a special guest here, Rooster Vance. Rooster, how are you doing today?
Howdy. We're doing well, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and I'll be honest here. We've never met before, and I'm excited to finally have you on the show here. I know a few friends of mine who have talked to you before, and it's great to finally be on this show here with you. So before we get into the meat of everything, and I want to talk to you specifically about, you know, how you source deals, and I know you focus on larger property as well. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a little backstory so I know where you came from and how you got into land? I feel like you've been in the land space for a while, but give me a little bit of backstory here.
Yeah, you know, I've been in wholesaling real estate longer than I've been in just land. You know, I started wholesaling houses about, 11, 12 years ago. And I did that for years. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I started to kind of venture into the land space. And I was always out at a family ranch of ours. And when we decided to sell, we subdivided some of it. And then I ended up helping some other ranchers around there, a friend of mine, subdivide their land so that they could make more money off of it. And then I realized I'm wholesaling houses and I'm subdividing land. This is, okay, I think I can wholesale land too, right? And a few years ago, it wasn't quite a trend, right? It kind of became trendy in the last couple of years because so many people did so well in the space. And so, it was a learning process. And, there were a lot of people out there that had been wholesaling infill lots and things like that. But, one of our first bigger deals in the first year was we wholesaled a 2,000-acre cattle ranch in outside of Abilene, Texas, which was a generational Texas cattle ranch with oil wells, full mineral rights and all of that. And we had, we came across this seller. It was a group of heirs who had inherited this, and they were at each other's throats. And they had a $3.5 million price tag on it. And we were able to get it under contract for $2.1 million. And then wholesale it for 2.5, right? So after 9 or 10, that's my dog drinking out of the water bowl. Give her a pop on the butt. After 9 or 10 years of doing houses and stuff, I said, okay, we're just going to do this land thing. It's way less stress. It's not the roof over people's, heads, right? And so with that, it becomes just more transactional, less emotional. And we find that we can find opportunities off market. We can reach out to sellers, cold outreach, just like we did with houses. And that we just basically ended up building a land wholesaling business similar to how, a lot of these guys are building big house wholesaling businesses. So it came from, I just kind of stumbled into it, and then it all just happened. I never thought back and said, I'm going to wholesale land. It just kind of evolved, But
Yeah, I get that.
so yeah, and then after a few months of doing that, and I'd done a few deals, I'm playing around on TikTok, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna make some content about wholesaling land, And so
Yeah.
so I make a little account, and I'm like, Alan Vance. I'm like, no, we'll give it my old nickname, Rooster Vance. Come on, I'm trying to be, cut through the noise somehow. And we started to make videos about, putting up bandit signs and going out and getting land deals. And it kind of took off and went viral, and we got a big following. So we were blessed there, lucky. Social media helped us out,
Yeah.
and it gave us a huge network. So I'm able to do a lot of transactions now. I stand in the middle of a lot of transactions, help a lot of students JV their first land deals, things like that. So just one of those
Now,
things that.
yeah, and it sounds like you fell on this a lot of this stuff organically from
Mhm.
starting in land and then building a network. And I did check out your TikTok. I don't live inside of TikTok, but I was like, holy smokes, you really have a serious following on
Yeah.
TikTok. By the way, if people want to find you on TikTok, can you tell us what the handle is?
Yes, at Ranchlander. That's Ranch Land ER. So the Ranchlander.
One word.
Just yeah,
Okay.
at
Yeah,
Ranch.
I had a. It's pretty. There's pretty some pretty funny stuff on there too.
Yeah,
So
I'm
check
silly
it
on
out.
there. Like, branding myself was big for me. And so that's the thing about Rooster, right? Is I pushed that to the forefront because I wanted to be different. I wanted to stand out. I wanted to cut through the noise, and I wanted people to remember me. And so, when in my mentorship, I teach a lot about obviously acquiring and disposing of wholesale properties, but also building your personal brand. And Rooster Vance that's what that is. It's my personal brand. It's bigger than myself. It kind of teeters on the edge of being an alter ego. So
Yeah.
but when I what I realized is that when I first kind of put myself out there as Rooster, it was uh, it was really me stepping into my true self. I had kind of gotten back to my roots. I'd gotten out of the hustle of the wholesaling houses in Austin, and I got back out to the country, kind of like where I was being raised. And it was just reconnection with myself. And I think that's an important part of our journey as well, because, real estate for me has been very much attached to my personal growth journey as a man, and so it's all one big thing to me. I live and breathe the land business, it's part of me.
It's really interesting. I don't think you set out deliberately to do this with TikTok and social media. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you look at it, it is a form of way for you to network and build a big network. How
Absolutely.
valuable is that to you that you have a network now? Because this
Hmm.
isn't something that a lot of people coming into the space think about. I mean, a lot of people
Yeah.
just sort of work in their own little bubble. But
Hmm.
if you were to say, you know, everything that you've done, how
Hmm.
much has networking played in terms of, give me a percentage roughly in terms of,
Yeah.
all the things that
I
you've gained out of it?
Yeah, I think 100% of my land career, because when I started posting content, I was kind of an independent. I had built a remodeling company, and I'd been flipping houses, and I'd started wholesaling houses, and then I kind of got burnt out, so I stopped flipping houses, and kind of eased into the land thing, and it was just all very unexpected and non-planned, and so when I started to blow up kind of, on TikTok, and it started to spread out, it really, most of my following is in Texas too. And so in Texas, like I walked into a Mexican restaurant and people were like, "Hey, Rooster," in a town that I am not from. And so it's been pretty crazy. People will recognize me not just at real estate events, but essentially the network has been everything. I wholesaled houses before, and it's just not the same when I didn't have a network. I had to work a lot harder, and now opportunities come to me. Right, people come and ask me to help them with a deal. Buyers come and say, "Hey, can you get? I'm looking. I got 1031 exchange money. I got 3 million. I need to buy some land right now around Austin. I just, as long as it has some equity, right?" And so the opportunities that come to me make my life much easier. It was basically instant credibility as an expert in the land space, right? And so that's something that people work a long time for. And even though I'd only been doing land a couple of years, I had been wholesaling real estate, commercial, and houses for 10 or 12 years prior. So it wasn't that big of a jump for me because I was raised on the land and had experienced subdividing and buying and selling of land, throughout my youth. So it culminated for me pretty quickly, and then what resulted was a big network of people that have come around me and helped lifted me up, and I've lifted some of them up and had students go out and make more money than they've ever made off of their first deals, and it's just been really nice. So yeah.
I didn't come into here thinking we talk about networking, and it's something I hear quite often with our other guests. But I don't know, something just kind of it just sounded so organic for you. And I checked out your TikTok
Yeah.
earlier, and I mean, you talk about now, I guess deals. Some deals come to you, or a lot of deals come to
Yeah.
you from there. And you mentioned that you're basically in the middle of a lot of transactions now. Um, would you say, I mean, this is a long run game for a lot of people here.
Mhm.
Is that something that land investors you think should, you know,
It's
put
the
at least a little bit of attention onto
Yeah,
building a network?
yeah. It's the
Yeah.
power
And
of it's the
what are
power.
some easy ways to be able to do that? Maybe not everybody's
Yeah.
cool with being on TikTok. Are there some
Right.
other ways to easily kind of get in the space of networking with others? What would you
hmm
suggest?
Well, other than the traditional methods of going to your local events, social media is the number one way of getting out there and doing that. Whether you're an artist or a musician or in the real estate business or whatever, you can build a personal brand on social media, right? And so, yeah, for folks that don't want their face on there, they don't have quite the camera presence. It's that might not be the route that they go, but for folks that do, it's kind of like a bonus. You're able to go out there and build a personal brand faster, and then people will come to you with opportunities for you to get into transactions or to provide value for people. And that's what it's really about, right? With social media and building our brand presence, we're putting ourselves out there. We're sharing our expertise. That way, people that are in a position to view us as the expert, which means that they're trying to follow in a path similar to us. It doesn't mean that we have to be Elon Musk and they have to be a pupil. Like, a couple of years ahead of your student is actually, I found that it's a good place to be, because you're not standing at the end of the road coaching somebody to come to you. You're actually ahead of them on the journey saying, come on, let's go. Right. And so that's the power of that type of relationship. I I think that that social media is the number one tool that we have, right? But besides, everybody's out there saying AI and all these things. Well, that it's all, those are all useful tools if you scale. But when you're a one man show, you should be doing one of two things. You should be building a network locally, or a team of kind of a wolf pack of people that you can kind of just have, you know, in your corner, or to JV with, or to mentor you, or you should be building a personal brand, or all of it. So it's not something that's necessary. A lot of folks, probably the most successful people that out there we've never even heard of, right? And so for those of y'all that are like, that doesn't work for me, it's not something to fret, because there's plenty of other ways to do it. But if you think you're somebody that can jump in front of the camera and and do something original, and that's what it is. It's cutting through the noise. There's so much noise out there that you can't be like, hi, I buy houses, or I buy land. You got to get out there and be like, howdy, howdy, my name's Rooster, holler and follow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to cut through the noise. Okay. However you're going to do it, that's going to be the mountain to climb to figure it out. So, but it's all about trial and error, right? The reason that I was successful with roosters, because I'd failed at so many other things before, because I was trying things, so if you never try, you're not going to know, right? You're not going to have a
I
chance.
love that.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Rooster, let's talk about your land side of things, and thanks for diving into that.
yeah,
That is really that's definitely an eye opener for me.
yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about your land strategy right now. So,
sure,
what do you typically focus on in terms
yeah.
of let's say what you typically like to focus on?
Mhm.
The kind of properties and the kind of deals. What do you? Yeah, where does your attention go
Yeah.
to typically?
Right now, I'm focusing on larger land deals because I think that's the natural kind of progress as you make. If you come into the land space, you might. I have friends that deal in volume, for instance, and they do a lot of infill lots, right? And that's their niche. And so it's really about finding a niche that works for you so that you can master that niche, right? I chose to go into the big land space because in the beginning, really, I fell into some buyers of big land and they told me, hey, this is our buy box. And then I went out and found something and then brought it over here and made $100,000 assignment fee. I said, okay, let's do this again, right? And so I went straight, I went pretty quick to the bigger deals, and so Texas is full of developers, right? It's been booming for 10 years, and so the market's been crazy here. Right now, it's softened, but it's still in no way of a true slump. It's just more of a correction, right? What we've experienced. I think we're experiencing that across the country. But yeah, the big land deals comes from knowing the buyers and what they want to buy, right? And so I write about that in. I have an ebook that I've written, and and it goes along with the document that you'll maybe share with your listeners today, my scripts, and and in there it explains exactly how and why we look for certain type of buyers, right? We just go straight to the top. Okay, who are the guys that want to buy $10 million pieces of development land? I need to know them. Whether I go and post in a Facebook group and say, hey, where are my developers at? Where are the agents and brokers that represent developers? Let's talk. Or whether I go to local meetups or whether I get on the phone and call the developers' offices and do some detective work. Any way I can do that until I have a good list of buyers that buy these big land deals, and then I can go out and start trying to fill their quotas. They're all looking for certain deals and they will buy them if you can bring them to the table. They've already told us, hey, there's nothing on the MLS. We've seen everything and bought everything that's good, basically. And so the idea is to almost reverse wholesale at that level where you know that these guys are buying 50 to 100 acres that just needs a lot of frontage and no floodplain so they can subdivide it into homesteads, 5 and 10 acres. You need these guys over here, they want 20 acres inside the ETJ, and because they want to develop high density residential neighborhoods, they specialize in townhomes or and then over here these gentlemen are looking for multifamily developments in or out of the city or in the path of progress, right? And so we have all these groups of buyers and I'm constantly trying to add more to it. And then we create data lists of the larger land. I'm like 50 and 100 acres up, owned for at least 10 years in the areas that I want in Texas, and that is all that I put on my list, right? Big land owned for a long time. And then who do I end up talking to when I call them or my cold callers call them? It's always the farmer, his wife, or widow, or his heirs. So you're going to talk to the old man, the old lady, or the kids, depending on where in their lives you contact them. So it's really consistent who we're talking to. We're talking to the same type of folks as we do, and so that's where Rooster strength is, right? I can call a farmer about his $4 million 300 acres outside of Austin, and I can drive out there and shake his hand and talk to him man to man because we're kind of cut from the same block. That's one of the reasons that I've had success is because I understand the farmer and the rancher, and I know how to go out there and shake their hand and put together a deal. So that's not to say that if you want to do big land deals, you got to wear cowboy boots or a cowboy hat, but you got to understand the people that are wearing them, and like it's not always about the price. This is generational land with sentimental value many times, and they want to understand what's going on with it. we've made deals to where, yeah, they know we're going to develop it, and we've included in the contract where all of the streets that are developed there are going to be named after their family, things like that. Like it's and so once you understand that those types of deals can be made with those types of people, and you can get in the middle of those transactions, you're actually solving a problem there at a very high level, right? The developers need land. They don't do outbound calling, right? Realtors don't do outbound calling worth of crap. Not on 200, not on huge multi-million dollar, you know, tracts of land, raw land. And so somebody's got to fill that gap, right? And so when I started to wholesale land there, I was like, oh man, we can do this, right? And I started to notice a lot more people doing it also, but they were real hush about it. It wasn't like the wholesaling houses guys who were out there telling everybody their secrets, you know? And so just in the last couple of years, this land hustle has finally kind of made it out onto the internet with me and some, some of these other land influencers who have shared the kind of the gospel of the land business. But prior to that, it was a little bit kind of a hush hush hustle. So, but here we are. It's a great space to be in.
And you mentioned something about your ebook and something that you're going to share on this episode, which is awesome, and we'll make it available. I want to talk about sort of up to that. You're talking about larger deals. Like, how complicated is the negotiation for these deals?
Sometimes very much easier than a $100,000 rundown house in the city. You know, first off, there's no structure on it. It's very this. It is what it is, right? You don't even have to visit these properties most of the time. Sometimes I've done $1 million deal. The land's an hour away. I never even went to it, you know, because I had a good enough view on Google Earth. So it's a very simple transaction. It's just a big number. And that creates fear for some people, and so they steer clear. But the fact is that land deals are the simplest deals to do once you understand, kind of the ins and outs of land and how and what the buyers want and how they need their contracts written for feasibility and things like that. So yeah, if it was really that difficult, you think a feller named Rooster would have figured it out? No, man, land business is easy, baby. Come on, you know.
All right. So for all you guys listening, Rooster provided this is I've got it on screen right now. I printed it out. 4 pages sequence offers. Sorry, an offer sequence script.
Mm-hmm.
And you wrote here, used specifically for larger land deals, discovery
Mm-hmm.
call to initial cash offer to seller carry offer, novations offer. Is
Mm-hmm.
this what you follow yourself?
This is what I wrote this a year ago for my students in my land mastery course, and we used it. I've trained teams on this, and what this does, is the reason that I say for larger land deals is because a lot of our buyers are looking for seller carry deals so that they can have the seller carry the note while they put it through engineering and entitlement or while they subdivide it, even if it's only 12 to 18 months. This allows our buyers to close on the deal, right, on $1 million deal with 100 grand, and then subdivide it, and they've got $2 million worth of lots, and they're in 100 grand plus the price of the surveys, and so the cash on cash return of these types of deals are super. And so when we're going for bigger land deals, I say they're easier than houses sometimes, and they are, because you can offer the people more than one offer. We're not just going to lowball them cash. We're going to anchor with a cash offer. We're going to call up and say, look, I know you wanted $1 million. I can only do 650,000, but I can get closer to your price if you could carry the note for me, right? And so there's 2 offers right there. And if it doesn't work after that, we move to the novations offer, and so that gives us 3 times the chance for every lead to get a deal.
Yeah,
Come on,
yeah,
so
I love it.
yeah.
Listen, you guys can grab this if you head over to pebblerei.com/LIBS. That's the Land Investing Business Secrets 123. So LIBS 123. You can grab this document here, and it's really cool because you sort of handle objections on here. I was reading this, I had a big smile on my face when I was reading this. Yeah. So make sure you guys grab this. That's pebblerei.com/LIPS123. That's Rooster's Vance full 3 offer sequence script. So you can
Mhm.
grab it there. All
Yep.
right, let's come back to this. So what happens, Rooster, if you come across smaller deals? Do you even bother
Mhm.
nowadays? Or I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe your pipeline is
yeah, we
pretty
do.
full. You still will do some of those smaller deals to kind of keep things moving too as well?
Yeah, what we have is I have some VAs that call our lists, and some of our lists we will have infill lots and smaller, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 acre tracts on them. Mostly, we do that, around or in and around the major metro areas. As we move outside of the cities, we want to go to larger tracts. We're looking for those opportunities, but yeah, and so the 3 offer, the sequence still works if you've got a buyer that would like seller carry on a smaller lot. Say you have a builder who wants to pick up some lots and they want to leverage their cash into some lots. Well, he may pick up a $50,000 lot with 10K and I might assign it to him for 5,000, and so he's leveraging his money into more lots, right? And so it's not that that's just for bigger land deals, that sequence. It's that it's bigger land deals are more prone to having a seller carry a contract be assigned, and and again, when you do have financing on a contract, you're not going to double close it. You're just going to assign it, right? Because you're going to assign away that person's rights to then have that seller carry. If you did a double close there, you'd have to do some type of a mortgage wrap, right? And so we'll just write these contracts with seller carry just how our buyers like them. They kind of tell us, hey, we need 60 days feasibility. We only pay 10% down unless we get 0% interest, then we can do more. It's like they all have different deals. So it really is, again, like I said, I explain in my ebook, it's about understanding your buyers and then going out and filling their quota and writing the contract in a way that they're going to buy it. And so we're doing this at a high level, and we're shooting for $50,000 to $200,000 assignment fees. And if you do that on a $1, $2, $3 million deal, they're not going to balk at an assignment fee of that size. If you've just gotten them into a deal where they're putting a couple hundred grand down to get into $1 million deal, that's going to make $1 million, right? Like they're going to love you for it and pay you your large assignment fee. And so it's it's just another level of the land game. And so if you're just getting into the land business, you don't necessarily need to niche into just large land or small land. Uh, I would more niche into an area before and start to, like if I'm from Dallas, I'm going to start with DFW area, right? And then maybe move to Houston, Austin, San Antonio because in Texas, that's kind of the 4 major cities. Everybody starts with those, right? And there's a lot of out of state people virtually wholesaling land in Texas as well because it's a hotbed. It in Florida, right? And so I have a lot of students from out of state too, and I tell them, you don't necessarily need to niche down into large land or small land yet. Just start with an area and throw a net over some 1 to 100 acres, and then underwrite everything, and then find the buyer. They're out there. Use the Facebook groups. There's a lot of land groups. You can find the buyers. You don't have to have the buyers lined up first. It's just something that starts to happen as you do business, and you stay in the game for a while. You'll start to have the buyers. You'll already know who to sell the land to after a year or two in the business. So it's
You're talking you're talking a lot about, I noticed, like being local, and then you just mentioned virtual. Do you feel being local or being near the area you have an advantage? And if so, what should investors do if they find themselves in the situation that they're working in an area closer to them, that they can be in that area? What are some of the ABCs that they should take advantage of that, say, a virtual wholesaler can't do?
the one thing that I think is an advantage is that, and I don't do it for all deals, but on the bigger deals, like I mentioned earlier, I will go out and shake the farmer or the rancher's hand and have the conversation at the property with them on a personal level, right? So if I'm like, oh, this is a 200-acre deal. The guy's saying he wants around 2 million. I know I can wholesale it for 2.2. And it's an hour away. I'm gonna drive out there. I'm not gonna try to get the deal done on the phone. That's not because I can't, because I could. I absolutely could. I just know that if I drive out there once I meet them personally, then I'm going to be their guy, right? That the competition's going to be snuffed out. And so and that's not always the case, but it definitely increases your closing rate, if you've met the people in person. So another thing is that a lot of these people are old and they don't want to meet you out at the land. They don't live there. So you don't even really have to, and you're not even expected to. So that's why virtual wholesaling works better with land than houses, because there's no structure. You can look at it with Google Earth, you can get a darn good idea, and you can make a deal. And you can tell the people, yeah, I drove by, you know, most, like I said, so it's really works either way.
Now, I'm assuming that there's also an advantage here with working with developers and the end buyer as well being local. I mean,
Hmm.
do
Yeah.
you meet those typically at local events, or do you meet them through virtually? Like, where do you see sort of
Both,
success with that?
definitely both. But the local events, I typically will meet the brokers for the development. They'll come up and say, "Hey, Rooster, man, I see you doing your land thing. I got a developer. He's looking for 20 acres, and he does stuff for Walmart or Bucky's or something like that." And I say, "Oh, okay." And so I, take down their buy box, get their info, and me and my team start to kind of, add that to our list. And so it doesn't, at this point it doesn't change where we're looking. We just, it's kind of a heads up because we're already looking for everything. Aren't we? Have uh, I had a much bigger team until recently. We scaled it down and have a really tight team because the market this year has been a little slower. But we're this year, last year we're throwing a big net with a bunch of callers and a bunch of team members. This year we're towards now towards the end of the year, we're more like a sniper effect. Like I'm really not only having a caller call the big list, but we're doing a lot of virtual driving for dollars. We'll get on the Land Glide app, and just we're looking for the big tracks with a bunch of frontage or with two sides frontage, right? 100 acres with two sides frontage. Come on, baby. That's easy to whack up into 10-acre spots with just some surveys, no plat, right? And so in subdividing land, we're forcing appreciation. If we can do it without a plat and double or triple the price per acre, come on. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for these. I know what these guys want. They want a lot of frontage. They want very little floodplain. They want it to where they can just draw lines from the road and divide it up. No building roads, no platting. And then if they do plat, that there's a 4 or 5x return if they're platting and building some roads and bringing in utilities. And so once you start to understand these numbers, I'm like, this is easier than figuring out the ARV on a house. It really is. So,
I like how you just talk and you're just dropping gems like left and right, sort of. And I can tell that this all comes with your experience
yeah,
and the confidence that you have in this. For
yeah.
somebody who's more used to the traditional, quick flips, smaller flips, what would you say is the one thing to keep in mind if they're thinking about moving into bigger and doing bigger deals
Hmm.
that you don't typically deal with on the smaller deals?
Yeah. Just to understand why those bigger deals are in demand, right? Like understanding the buyer and why do they want that? What are they going to do with it? How are they going to add value to it and exit that transaction? Once you understand all of that, then you can look at a piece of land and say, you see the exit strategy immediately. You say, or lack thereof, right? It's a flag lot and it's half in floodplain. I'm not wasting my time. Oh, this has a ton of frontage, very little floodplain, close to town. Yeah, he's asking a lot, but there is so much you can do with this. I know developers will pay closer to retail for properties, even off market or not, if they line up with the buy box perfectly, right? So when you have a big piece of land that's on the sewer line, then they'll pay retail because most of the land anywhere near a sewer is already is spoken for, and so just little things that does take some time to understand. But again, it's not rocket science. It's just lots of layers of simple ideas that you need to kind of ingest and collate in your mind so that you can deploy as readily as like you said a minute ago. It's like it's simple stuff. So but anyway, and that's why I love the business. Business doesn't have to be complicated. We're not reinventing the wheel so much at the level of the transactions we're doing. We are pushing the envelope a little bit with technology on the acquisitions and disposition side using, some AI tools and our CRMs with automations and all of these things. But other than that, the business itself has not changed much in a long time. My grandfather was buying land at the county tax auction 50 years ago and subdividing it and selling it on notes. Okay. And that's if you buy land at, 70% of retail and you're able to subdivide it and sell it on seller carry, you can usually sell it at 110% of retail with 10% interest. So if you've purchased it at 70 cents on the dollar, right, but then you've doubled it from its retail value by subdividing, then you bought it at 70 cents on the dollar, then you're going to sell it at $2.10 with 10% interest, right? And so it's the gap there, the ROI there is larger than any, say, apartment syndication return that you'd ever see. Okay. And that's one of the big tools. As a matter of fact, two of the largest apartment syndicators that I know that I've grown up with, one that is been doing it for 15 years, another for 10 or so, and they're worth well into the 8 digits. They've kind of retired from apartment syndicating, and they took all of their wealth they accumulated, bought land at 60, 70 cents on the dollar in Texas, subdivided it up, and sold it, just like I said, at a 3x factor plus 10% over 30 years, and they retired, right? They take 10 million in land and they just wrote 50 million in notes on it, right? And it's crazy. So it's a crazy business, and it's supply and demand. So yeah.
Rooster, I feel like you have so many stories you could probably tell here, but
Don't
I
even want
want to ask you one more thing. I want to ask you one more thing as we're coming close to wrap up here. But can
to.
you walk us through a wholesaling deal that you've recently done? You mentioned to me earlier it was to a solar company, and I think you deal with a lot. You know the end buyers, you know the end companies or the developers that you work with. Can you walk us through this deal? Maybe how you fell
Yeah,
upon the property, anything that you
yeah.
learned from it, any challenges that you learned from it, and just kind of give us an understanding of it?
It's funny because it goes back to the first person that came to me and said, "Hey, I'm with a solar company." They came through my TikTok and they said, "We're buying land and we do these projects," and this person became a friend of mine actually, and we talked a lot. And so I was looking for some land that would work for solar projects, and I found some and I presented them the projects, and it didn't exactly line up for what they needed. But just in posting a couple of times, "Hey, we're working on the solar deal," another solar buyer stepped up and said, "I'll take that piece of property," right? And so we've got not too far outside of an Austin, a few acres next to an electric substation on a big transmission line. And these people are doing digital grid and battery storage projects for these, so that they're expecting rolling blackouts in Texas in 10 years if we don't have a battery storage station at most of our electric substations. So, but we're also dealing with land out in West Texas to where we have large solar guys coming in asking us to lease land, right? And so we've gone out and found the land, buy it at 60 cents on the dollar, bring in an investor, we buy it, and then turn around and lease it to the solar company, and then your land cash flows. Or we'll get a seller carry note from an old farmer on his land, give him 50,000 down, and then turn around and lease it for 30, 40 years to a solar farm so that we're buying it seller carry and we already have a lease for it in place when we close. And that's a deal we're working on right now. So the first solar deal wholesaled a few acres so that they could build a battery project. Second deal, get it, sell or carry it from the owner, and then lease it to the solar company. So, and this solar business is just in the last couple of months for us. So, like I said, there's always something to learn in the land business. You keep kind of growing. I recently had a conversation with a guy who said, I work buying land for Walmarts and these type of stores in Texas and a couple other states, and our company's in charge of that. And so, and so you start to realize the different niches in the land space that exist. It's like, oh man, I never really thought about all this. Okay, so now here I am, a guy positioned to get land at 50 to 70 cents on the dollar, and I can bring it to the table for some of these buyers, and they can walk into it with equity rather than using a realtor and broker traditionally. So when I reach out to these companies and tell them who I am and what I do, they're always welcome a relationship with me, because they understand what it could potentially mean for their company, is that I could bring them an opportunity that basically they all have FOMO and they're all competitive. Like, they don't want the other business to get it. They want to get it, like before this gas station wants to get it before this gas station. So
Right.
you got to get in the middle of those transactions, baby.
And that's exactly, we kind of come full circle to that. I think if there's anything that I've taken away is like how planted you are in the middle of so many transactions,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly building a personal brand has played a role in that. You seem to have a lot of creative approaches to acquiring land. Rooster, thank you so much
No.
for coming on this show here and
Yeah.
sharing with us some of these things that you're doing. Rooster,
Yeah.
what's the best if somebody wants to engage with you? We talked about your TikTok. That's Ranch Lander. They can find you on TikTok. I'm sure you guys have to check it out. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It was actually, like, aside from you being credible and having authority, it was entertaining, and I think
Yeah.
that you probably already know that about
That's
yourself.
that's kind
And
of, I've always been kind of an entertainer. And people are like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Man, I was in theater in high school. I traveled around the state. I was in plays, and I was a musician. I've sang to crowds of hundreds and then several thousand for years and years and years. So being in front of a camera audience was never the problem for me. It was when I got into real estate, I said, well, how am I going to figure out how to be a rock star in real estate? Come on." 'Cause and so I said, well, and really, I'm a marketing guy. I'm a marketing guy, and I love land. So it all came together for me.
yeah, and land is definitely a marketing game. So, Rooster, once more, they can find you on
Yeah,
TikTok. If there's another way to engage with you, is there
yeah.
any other way that they can get a hold of you?
Instagram.
If you're open to
In,
sharing.
yeah, Instagram, Rooster_Vance is good. My websites are down being reworked right now. You can also you can email me at theroostervance@gmail.com. And if you've got any questions or want to ask me, or if you email me there, I might shoot you my ebook. Come on. So I'll shoot you a copy too. Jesse, I'm going to get you a copy of my ebook as well. It's got all the nuggets, baby.
Would love it, and we'll make sure that's available on this page.
Yeah.
If you head over to pebblerei.com/LIBS123 or episode 123 here with Rooster Vance, there's a ton of goodie here. Rooster, thank you so much for coming on this episode here.
You got it, brother. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Before you stop this episode or hit the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast by Pebble. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate any awesome reviews and ratings on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast or the specific episode that may help them on their land investing journey. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.